Welcome to Grace. My name is Stephen and this is church.
John 12, 1-8. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany, the home of Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. There they gave a dinner for him. Martha served, and Lazarus was one of those at the table with him. Mary took a pound of costly perfume made of pure nard, anointed Jesus' feet, and wiped them with her hair. The house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. But Judas Iscariot, one of his disciples, the one who was about to betray him, said, "Why was this perfume not sold for 300 denarii and the money given to the poor?" He said this not because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. He kept the common purse and used to steal what was put into it. Jesus said, "Leave her alone. She bought it so that she might keep it for the day of my burial. You always have the poor with you, but you do not always have me."
Each of us have points in our life which are life-changing moments. The moment we finished school, our first job, the time we met our significant other. In a book, on a DVD, or on YouTube, you may call these transitions chapters. Jesus in John chapter 12 was marking a new beginning in the ministry of Jesus, the beginning of the end. Bookending this passage is two critical events in the life of Jesus and his ministry. So I encourage you to take on the readings of John chapter 11 and chapter 13 for more context. The first bookend is Jesus' resurrection of Lazarus, which sparks this celebratory dinner, an event that showed the power of Jesus even over death. A celebratory dinner which rightfully included Mary thankfully washing Jesus' feet. The second bookend is marked by the Last Supper, where Jesus predicts his own death, a contemplative dinner which mercifully begins with Jesus washing his disciples' feet. In this week's lectionary cartoon, we see two sheep talking to each other. The one sheep says, "Sounds like that was a lot of perfume." The second sheep responds, It was Mary's way of saying, "Thank you, and I worship you, and maybe even, please don't die." The other sheep responds, "Huh?" And her lips aren't even moving. Mary's true heart is revealed in her actions, while Judas' true heart is revealed in his words. In our world, it is easy and easier to sound sanctimonious on Twitter or on Facebook or in public speeches beyond various platforms and soapboxes. However, words can be a mask for what our true heart feels. Mary quietly goes about thanking Jesus. She thanks him by inviting him to be the guest of honor. She thanks him by washing his feet with a perfume worth a year's wages. She thanks him by taking down her hair, which wouldn't have been custom, in order to wipe his feet. Judas may appear noble when he questions Mary's finances, yet when we read further, we know that he will ultimately be the one to sell Jesus. His words do not tell us his heart. His actions do. Here are three ways Judas was out of line in this particular story. And this is the first time we see any glimpse that Judas, who had spent so much time with Jesus, may not be everything that we think he is. Well, the first thing is that the event took place in Mary's home. Jesus was the guest of honor. If anyone was to be the most thankful, it was Mary, since Jesus had just raised her brother Lazarus from the dead. If what Mary was doing was objectionable, then surely Martha, who was no stranger to speaking up, especially against her sister Mary, would have said something. There is no indication that Mary was not holding up her other financial responsibilities. It was simply Mary's way of going above and beyond. Either way, it was not Judas's place to speak up. Secondly, the perfume had already been used. The cost of the bottle that Judas is protesting had already been spent. The cost was about a year's wages of someone who worked at a manual labor job. Expensive as it was, what is the sense of bringing up that cost now? Perhaps later a discussion could be had, but to publicly speak out on this is simply not good etiquette. Now, have you ever been to a lavish wedding? Way over the top, at least in your own books. Maybe something out of a movie. Now ask yourself, did you not only think to yourself, whoa, this is way over the top, and surely money could have been spent differently and spent better, but then went on and requested the microphone to share such displeasure with the room? How about a funeral? Wow, that is one nice tombstone. It could have fed a small village. Maybe these are thoughts you have had in your head. I hope not, but maybe. Yet none of us would say these things out loud. Finally, as the Wesleyan Bible commentary states, Judas' complaint was inopportune because of the rising tide of opposition to Jesus. If ever the group of disciples needed to stand together with Jesus, it was at that time. Was Judas beginning to show his real character? Any word or gesture unfavorable to Jesus would be looked upon with suspicion by those present. They would sense something ominous in the air. Grace Church, which founded the Sharing Place 30 so years ago, should be proud that it is doing everything and anything to feed, clothe, invite, and visit the poor. We were all made in God's image, and we will be judged by what we have done to the least of these. The Sharing Place also creates honest conversations. Once a lady who I really like was talking to me about churches and finances. I do not think she had any actual church experience, as in, she had not grown up in a church. But she had seen how some large churches were, in her mind, wasting money. And surely there are churches wasting money. Pastor Stephen, all the money from the church should go to the poor. Well, I can say confidently that for us, that is almost entirely true. We are a modest church. We do not have an elaborate sound studio or sound equipment. We do not have a pastoral three-piece suit financial reimbursement program. If we do, please let me know. We do not have a church bus or a church van, although sometimes I dream of a Sprinter. So if anyone works at Mercedes and would like to donate one, please DM me. We are modest people. However, part of the program, the Christian program, at least in my eyes, is that part of God's teaching is that by loving Him first, we are somehow transformed, and that allows us to love others as ourselves. I understand people outside the church may not understand that, nor may ever understand that. However, we, like Mary, have times where we need to put God first. Does that mean we neglect the poor? Of course not. It means we, like Mary, go above and beyond to make sure that all our commitments are met. Leave her alone, Jesus replied. It was intended that she should save this perfume for the day of my burial. You will always have the poor among you, but you will not always have me. A few years ago, I had the chance to bump into an old Christian friend, Pastor Stewart. In the middle of catching up, he asked what I was doing. I shared with him that I was working at our Nazarene Compassionate Ministries food bank, the Sharing Place. That's great, brother. How is that going for you? Well, Pastor Stu, I said with some sort of concern, we have seen quite an uptick in people coming to the Sharing Place. The needs are greater and greater. God bless you. God bless you. That's terrific news, he replied. Terrific news. I dream of a day we are no longer needed, not of a day where people wrapped around a building. Those are good dreams, Stephen. Those are good dreams, Stephen. But it is a blessing that people have found a place where people welcome them, feed them, clothe them, care for them, and share their lives with them. In the car ride home, my dreams still revolved around doing so well that we were not needed. Years later, I have started to think that my dreams is not fully possible as long as we say feeding the poor, we say clothing the poor is a priority. But while we continue to show in our actions that taking care of ourselves first is the real priority. When you read this story, whose shoes do you put yourself in? It is always easy tempting to put ourselves into the good character shoes without really evaluating where our hearts lie. Do you think of yourself from the perspective of Mary? Are you so thankful that you are willing to go above and beyond to express your gratitude? Are you willing to, like Mary, throw cultural expectations away to serve your King? Have you somehow, despite years surrounded by Jesus, found yourself thinking of him less and thinking of yourself more? Maybe you find yourself in the crossroads, recognizing that Judas is the one you have recently been acting like. There is time to change. Can you envision yourself as a guest of honor, knowing the person in question is likely going to fully turn on you, yet continue to have mercy? This is what we are called to be, Christ-like disciples. This is Grace. My name is Stephen, and this is Church.
It was my cross you bore, so I could live in the freedom you died for. And now my life is yours, and I will sing of your goodness forevermore. Worthy is your name. alone deserve our praise. You're the name above all names. Be exalted now in the heavens as your glory fills this place.